They say revenge is sweet, but sometimes it's so bitter that it poisons everyone involved. This first story begins in a quiet American suburb, where a man named David believed he had the perfect life: a good job, a nice home, and a beautiful wife named Laura. Everyone thought they were the dream couple, till the day David discovered the truth. For months, Laura had been secretly seeing someone else, David's own best friend, Ethan. When he found out, he didn't explode. He didn't shout. He simply walked out of the room, expressionless, and said nothing. But inside, something cold began to grow. Weeks passed. He filed for divorce and let her have the house. Everyone called him mature and forgiving. He thought he was moving on. But David wasn't moving on. He was planning. A year later, Laura and Ethan got married. David sent them a gift, a bottle of their favorite red wine, and a small note that said, "Congratulations on finally being honest." They laughed when they read it, thinking it was sarcasm, but a few nights later, their laughter turned to horror. The police came knocking, asking questions about Ethan's workplace, the tech company where David had once been the head of cybersecurity. Massive data leaks had been traced back to Ethan's employee account. Company secrets, client lists, personal data, all of it posted online under Ethan's name. Ethan swore he was innocent, but every trace led straight to him. Within weeks, he was fired, investigated, and blacklisted in the industry. The perfect life he built on betrayal crumbled overnight. Months later, as David quietly watched the chaos unfold from his new apartment, he received an email from an anonymous address. It was just one line. Was it worth it? He stared at the screen for a long time before replying. She took my peace. I took her future. David had hacked into the system long before the divorce, setting up a trail that would activate months later. By the time anyone discovered it, he'd moved states, changed his name, disappeared. Revenge had brought him satisfaction, but not peace. And in the silence of his new life, he realized something chilling. When you burn someone's world to the ground, you also get trapped in the smoke.
She kept the secret like a knife in her pocket. Naina grew up loving both her parents, but she learned early that love and loyalty can hide disaster. Her mother's pregnancy had been brutal. It nearly killed her. After her daughter was born, her father decided he would not risk it again. He had a vasectomy, and the family stitched itself back together around that quiet promise. Years later, when Naina left for college, everything changed. Her mother was diagnosed with aggressive ovarian cancer. The house became a hospital, and the slow, cruel work of grief began. While her mother faded, her father found someone else. A woman who seemed to appear everywhere. At the hospital, at family dinners, slipping into their life with a smile. Everyone called her supportive. Naina called her Stacy. Stacy didn't just comfort the family, she moved in. She smiled through bedside visits and took on tasks that made her feel part of something she had no right to. She wove herself into the life of a dying woman, and when death finally came, she settled into the house like she'd paid rent for the privilege. Naina knew the truth. She knew her father had cheated. She knew Stacy had lied in the room where her mother took her last breath. But confrontation would be too easy, too messy. Instead, Naina chose the slow burn. She watched Stacy talk about children, the aching longing in her voice. She knew the one thing Stacy wanted most, a family, was the one thing her father could never give. So she waited. She pretended. She hugged, cooked, sent congratulatory messages when the pair announced their engagement. Years slipped by. Naina married and had children of her own. On a quiet afternoon, with coffee cooling between them, Stacy confessed the worst ache of her life: infertility, attempts, heartbreak, the cruel approach of menopause. Naina looked at her, steady and calm, and asked, "He didn't tell you?" Then she said the sentence that shattered everything. "He had a vasectomy before I was even born." Stacy's life unraveled in a minute. Divorce papers, fury, humiliation. Naina cut both of them out of her life and never looked back. The revenge wasn't flashy. It was a truth that burned down a future built on lies. Not all revenge needs years. Sometimes it takes 3 days in a plastic tub. Kev's parents were furious when CCTV showed a bully ripping their son's treasured teddy in half. The teacher suspended him for just 3 days, and the school thought the matter closed. Kev's parents thought otherwise. They handed their son a plastic container and a mission. Place it in the bully's locker, and don't tell anyone what's inside. Curiosity was always the bully's weakness. When he found the container and cracked it open, a swarm of cockroaches exploded out, crawling into sleeves and shirts, into classrooms and hair. He screamed, fled, and humiliation followed. Kev got suspended for a month, but the point landed. Sometimes the smallest, grossest details carry the sharpest sting. Then, there's the kind of revenge that goes nuclear when you poke the wrong person. Jessica and Angie wanted payback against their childhood tormentor, Harper. They thought a harmless prank, toilet papering the roof, planting creepy gnomes, would be cathartic. That night, a knock at the door woke Jessica. She investigated and found nothing, until the smoke alarm screamed. Harper stood in her doorway with a can of gasoline and a box of matches. She had slipped inside and tried to burn Jessica's cottage to the ground. Jessica grabbed Harper and ran just before her house erupted into flames. The prank they meant as a small victory nearly cost them everything. The lesson was brutal. Some enemies are dangerous, and small slights can light fires you never intended to start. Across the world, revenge takes many faces, quiet, grotesque, and sometimes terrifyingly explosive. There are some moments when revenge doesn't just balance the scales, it breaks them completely. Lucas had been married for 11 years when he discovered that his wife, Dana, had been cheating with one of his closest friends. The betrayal felt surgical, cutting deep into every corner of his life. But Lucas didn't scream. He didn't argue. He watched. He collected evidence, phone records, screenshots, and receipts. Every smile from Dana became a thread in his growing web. When he finally had enough, he didn't confront her at home. He waited until their 10th anniversary party, a beautiful evening with family and friends gathered under string lights. Lucas stood, glass raised, and gave a heartfelt speech about love, trust, and loyalty. Everyone clapped. Dana smiled, teary-eyed. Then Lucas connected his phone to the speaker system and pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Her laughter. Her words to another man. The silence that followed was suffocating. Guests froze. Dana turned pale. Lucas didn't stay to see the end. He walked out while the recording played on, leaving the party in stunned silence. His revenge wasn't violent. It was surgical, poetic, and unforgettable. But sometimes revenge takes root in grief. When Sylvia's brother died in a car accident caused by a drunk driver, the justice system barely touched the man responsible. He served a few months, paid a fine, and walked free. Sylvia couldn't sleep for months. Her mother sank into depression. Her father stopped talking altogether. That's when Sylvia started following the man's social media accounts. She learned his patterns, the bars he went to, the friends he bragged to, the car he still drove. One night, she created a fake account under the name Maya. She was charming, funny, and always online at the same times he was. They began chatting. Soon they met in person. Over weeks, Sylvia learned everything. His passwords, his business plans, his vulnerabilities. Then in one night she destroyed it all. She sent his incriminating messages and videos to his wife, his boss, and the police. The same police who had let him walk free. Within a week, he lost his job, his marriage, and his reputation. When he tried to reach Maya again, the account was gone. In its place was a single message: justice served. Sylvia. And then there are stories that walk the edge between dark humor and horror. Ray worked at a high-end restaurant where his manager, Colin, was a tyrant. Colin loved to humiliate his staff, yelling in front of customers, cutting tips, even pocketing money meant for others. Ray had endured it for months, saving quietly for a new job. When he finally got a better offer, he didn't just quit. He planned something unforgettable. On his last day, he cooked Colin's favorite lunch, the chef's special. He served it himself, watched Colin dig in, and smiled when he finished every bite. Then Ray slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photos, clear, detailed, and time-stamped, of Colin kissing the restaurant owner's wife behind the kitchen. On the back of each photo, Ray had written, "Bon appétit." Colin was fired within 24 hours. The restaurant staff threw a party that night in Ray's honor. Some people say revenge is a waste of energy. But for those who've been humiliated, betrayed, or broken, sometimes it's the only way to feel alive again. Sometimes revenge doesn't just make you feel better. It changes everything about who you are. Take Emily, for example. She was a quiet woman, married to a man everyone admired. Her husband, Grant, was charming, successful, and generous, at least in public. Behind closed doors, he controlled everything. He tracked her phone, her spending, her friends. He never hit her, but his words were sharper than any blade. For years, Emily believed she couldn't escape. Then one night, she found a string of messages on Grant's tablet, love notes, photos, and hotel receipts. The woman's name was Claire. The betrayal didn't shock her. It woke her up. She decided she wouldn't leave. She'd let him destroy himself. Over the next few months, she played the perfect wife. She smiled, cooked, laughed at his jokes, and even suggested they take a trip together. During that time, she copied every message, photo, and financial document she could find. Grant had been hiding assets, money in offshore accounts, fake business expenses, all under her name. When she had everything she needed, she filed for divorce and sent the entire file to his company's legal department and the IRS. Within 2 weeks, Grant lost his job, his accounts were frozen, and federal investigators were on his doorstep. Emily walked away free, wealthy, and finally at peace. Not all revenge stories are slow burns. Some ignite in a second. Carlos was a construction worker who spent years saving to buy his first truck. One night, while he was asleep, a neighbor's teenage son decided it would be funny to take it for a joyride. He crashed it into a ditch and ran home, leaving Carlos's dream in pieces. The family offered no apology, only excuses. "Boys will be boys," the father said. Carlos said nothing. He rented a storage unit, towed the wreck there, and began rebuilding. He took welding classes at night, worked double shifts, and poured every spare dollar into repairs. When the truck was finally restored, it looked brand new, except for one thing. He painted the boy's full name in bold letters across the tailgate with the words, "This is who crashed my truck." Within days, the neighborhood was talking. The boy's parents begged him to remove it, but Carlos refused. He parked it outside their house every evening after work. Eventually, the family moved away, leaving the house empty and their reputation in ruins. And then there's the kind of revenge that feels almost supernatural. Group of college roommates once tormented a quiet girl named Mira. They hid her clothes, spread rumors, and posted her diary entries online. She never fought back, just withdrew, silent and eerie. Then one day, all 3 bullies received anonymous letters. Each contained a single photo of themselves sleeping in their dorm room, taken from inside. Panic spread through the campus. Security footage revealed nothing. The girls transferred schools within weeks, terrified. Mira never admitted anything, but she walked the halls smiling after that. Calm, composed, untouchable. Some say she'd learned to make peace with her pain. Others say she simply found a new way to be feared.